Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're all having a great day. And it's about to get better because I'm going to teach you how fat loss occurs and how to create something called a calorie deficit. And this is what is needed to actually have weight loss occur. It's actually the law of thermodynamics. And what I'm going to do is use an average. I'm going to use a 150-pound female. So that this is going to work much the same whether you're a 200-pound male. I'm going to go through this and describe it, but the numbers really work the same way. So using this example, we're going to have to learn a few definitions to make this all make sense. But once we get through this, it's probably going to be a big time aha moment for you. So the first thing we're going to learn is what RMR is. So what RMR stands for is resting metabolic rate. And what that is if you just laid in bed all day and you didn't move, how many calories would it take to keep you alive? And this number is really surprising to a lot of people. It's actually really expensive to run our body. So just feeding your organs, your liver, your heart, breathing, all of these things, and your brain is actually over 25% of all of these calories just to keep that running. So that's how expensive just your brain is. But accumulative, the average female, and I actually have an indirect calorimeter which measures your metabolism, your resting metabolic rate. So I've seen hundreds of these. And the average with females is really only about 1,100 calories to 1,400 calories. There's a pretty small variance even though the body sizes are much different. But inside, we're all pretty much in this pretty small window. So that makes it pretty easy to understand what we're going to go through here. So knowing this number, because it is the largest part, is really important. And what I call this is kind of like our baseline. This is our baseline needs because it's just feeding our body. So the next thing is TEF. That's the thermogenic effect of food, and that's how expensive it is to actually break down and assimilate the food that you consume. Protein being the highest thermogenic effect, and that's why it's so valuable in your diet. Fat has very low, carbohydrates have some, but it does cost energy to actually break down the food. So we have 200 calories as an average. The next one is, I have it as DA plus NEAT. That's daily activity, so that's your job, that is whatever you're doing, whether you're a mother, stay-at-home mom, whether you're doing something very active. So depending on what you're doing, this number can have some variance. If you're at a desk job, it's going to be lower. If you're very active, it's going to be slightly higher, but this is an example to help you understand it. This is stuff we can figure out. So NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's literally things like fidgeting. You know, some people really fidget. They actually burn a lot more calories than the average person. And some people are they're energy conservers, and that's me actually. I sit down for some reason whenever I get the opportunity because I conserve energy naturally. So some people naturally burn more energy, some burn less because of their habits. But anyways, 500 calories is about the average for, let's say, the 150-pound female. So we're going to take these numbers, 1,300, 200, that's at 1,500. We add 500, we're at 2,000 calories. So this is what, if you consume 2,000 calories within a day, on average, you're going to maintain your weight. But we're looking for weight loss. But that's a really important piece to know, that you will maintain your weight at 2,000 calories. Now what we're doing is we're going to create this calorie deficit that I'm talking about. And the thing that you need to know is in 1 pound of fat, there's actually 3,500 calories. So in order to lose 1 pound of fat, you have to create a calorie deficit of 3,500 calories. And I'm going to show you how to do this and actually show you why your diet has probably failed and why you've been yo-yo dieting and caused problems. So this is essentially, just so you know, when you use a tracking app, the tracking app itself is, by you entering your information, is calculating this equation in creating a calorie deficit for you. So that's why tracking apps are cool, because they do the work, but you're going to understand what it's doing and why it's doing it. So that's what I'm going to help you with. So we know it takes 2,000 calories that you consume to actually maintain your weight, but we don't want to maintain. We want to start weight loss. So I'm going to break that down for you right now. So let's say on Monday, we eat 2,000 calories, 2,000, 2,000. And one thing I love to teach is we don't want to see calories in a bad light. People like to see calories as a bad thing, but calories are potential nutrients. It's vitamins, it's minerals, it's things that feed enzymes, and they make the body function. So less calories is not necessarily, it's definitely not a good thing unless you're just massively over consuming. So see calories as what they can be, not what maybe you see them in the past. So anyways, we're eating 2,000 calories. This is every day of the week. That's what we did. We were really consistent with our food. But again, we want to create a calorie deficit. So what happens is, I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do this, but I'm going to show it first with probably the best way to do it, which is through exercise. So when we exercise, we burn calories because calories are units of energy. So let's say we burn 500 calories within a workout. And I'm going to explain something right now that's really important. For you to burn, especially as a 150-pound female, 500 calories within, let's say, an hour, it's not going to happen. These tracking apps are all notorious for overestimating caloric burn during exercise. So do not fall for this, because I guarantee, unless you are doing some crazy training, you are not getting to 500 calories. So I would input 250 to 300 calories, because I guarantee you that is not going to be right. But we're going to use this number just to keep the number simple to understand. So what we did is we exercised on Monday, we burnt 500 calories, same, we were really consistent, and we're kicking butt. Exercise every day of the week. We burnt 500 calories every single day. Well, if we take 500 calories, multiply that by 7, the amount of days in the week, you end up at a 3,500 calorie deficit. And that should equal 1 pound of fat loss, because remember, in 1 pound of fat, there's 3,500 calories. So hopefully you can see, we ate 2,000, we burnt 500 off, 7 days in a row. Consistency, this is where it really matters, consistency. We should have lost 1 pound of fat after this 7 days. Now this is the problem, is for most 150-pound females, do you think that you guys actually are eating 2,000 calories? Most people, or a lot of people, the people that come to me, have tried a 1,200 calorie diet, a 1,300, a 1,400 calorie diet, maybe at most. We're used to actually starving ourselves. And what I want you to do is look back at this number. 1,300 calories, that's our baseline number. That's what it takes to keep you alive. And you're eating a 1,200 calorie diet. Well, that's the number one thing that's sabotaging you, because what happens is you'll actually start to lose muscle mass. And muscle mass is one of the big reasons that you have a nice high metabolism. You will start to reduce this number. So maybe after a month of eating this 1,200 calorie diet, starving yourself, this becomes 1,100 because of loss of muscle mass. But even probably more so is going to be your thyroid hormone. Actually, your thyroid reducing this number because you don't have enough energy to even sustain the basic function. So it has to do something to live within its means, so it starts slowing everything down. And it's going to do that via this resting metabolic rate, all of a sudden you're going to be burning 700 instead of that 1300. And now all of a sudden, how are you going to create a calorie deficit when your body's only burning 700 calories as your resting metabolic rate? It's going to hold on to the fat that you have because it's under threat of starvation. It's very desperate, and it's doing things like reducing your resting metabolic rate just to keep you alive. So your organs are suffering, everything is suffering. So if that doesn't wake you up to why your diet has maybe failed in the past, then I don't think anything will. So we're gonna continue on, and I'm gonna give you a different example of how we can do this. Because what I want to teach you is, okay, now we can actually create the calorie deficit through your diet itself. So what we would do is eat 1,500 calories, because remember, it takes 2,000 calories to maintain. So we eat 1,500 calories. I think you guys get the point. That creates a deficit of 500 calories for the day. We did not exercise. Let's say you cannot, for some reason, you still created a deficit of 500 calories because it takes 2,000 calories to maintain, but you only ate 1,500. You're in a calorie deficit. Well, it's the same thing. If you look at the law of thermodynamics, less energy is coming in that's being expended at the end of the week. If you eat 1,500 calories every single day, you spit 500 times 7 will be that 3,500 calories. Well, you should have lost 1 pound of fat. So there again, it's the calorie deficit can be done in a couple different ways. It can be done through exercise, it can be done through diet, or it can be done through both, which is a great way to do it as well. I'm just going to leave that actually because it's going to be the same thing. So 1,750. What we did was created a 250 calorie deficit through diet because I only consumed, or you would have only consumed 1,750. And then you exercise 250 away. So that's, a good hour of exercise. And then you still create a 500 calorie deficit, half through exercise, half through reducing your overall intake. So let's say 1,750, we work out every day, 250 minus 250. Okay, so here, what should be pretty obvious now is the net deficit is going to be 3,500 calories. And that should be 1 pound of fat loss. Now, what you can do is, if you are someone who is overweight, you have a lot of weight to lose, then what you can do is actually create a larger deficit. This is not for people who do not have a lot of weight to lose, because you end up massively undereating and starting to affect the resting metabolic rate. If you have stored fat and you have lots of it, it's not going to have this effect on this because it's going into stored energy. So what can happen is we can create a larger calorie deficit through diet and exercise, and we can double this number. So if we eat 1,500 calories, we do this every single day of the week, we burn 500, then what's going to happen is there's going to be actually a 7,000 calorie deficit, and by that number you should have lost 2 pounds a week. So you did a deficit of 500 through diet, and then you exercised and burnt 500. And remember, you can do it with either or. So it could be 1,250, hopefully that math is right, 250, still netting this should net you now 1,000 calorie per day deficit. And remember, that's only if you have a lot of weight to lose. Otherwise, you're only shooting for 1 pound of weight loss per week if you're someone that only has not a ton of weight loss to lose or a ton of fat to lose. So now what I want to show you is how you may be actually sabotaging your weight loss. This one is going to be probably the big aha moment. So this is where the real lesson comes in and why most likely you end up sabotaging yourself unknowingly by being inconsistent. So this is really going to be eye-opening. So let's say we're getting off to a good start. We're eating our 2,000 calories, burn 500 through exercise. That leaves us with a 500 calorie deficit for the day. Same thing. We did 3 days in a row. Did a great job. Okay, so these 3 days in a row, we ate our 2,000 calories for maintenance. We burned off 500, creating that 500 calorie deficit. These 3 days would be 1,500 calorie deficit. So we'll just put this right here. We're at 1,500. Now, someone brings food to work, brings pizza to work, snacks, all this stuff, and we actually eat 3,000 calories that day. We slip up, have some drinks, whatever. Now we're actually in, since it was 2,000 to maintain, we didn't exercise this day, so now we're at a positive 1,000 calories. So we just ate away a large portion of that deficit that we created that week. So we're now only at a 500 calorie deficit. We wiped out 1,000 of those calories. So we feel guilty, get back to work, eating our food, exercising. Friday, Saturday, you have great days, consistent. Okay, so now we're back to a 1,500 calorie deficit. Again, we're watching football, having snacks, eat 3,000 calories again. And that might sound like a lot of calories, but that's very easy to do when you're eating high fat, high carbohydrate, snacky type foods. So this is not uncommon whatsoever. So now we're back at 1,000 calorie surplus. We had 500 left over. Another 500, 1,500 total, but we just wiped out another 1,000 calories. So at the end of the week, that ends up being, well, this technically is plus 1,000. At the end of the week, we end up at a negative 500 calorie deficit because we slipped up only on 2 days, 2 inconsistent days. Well, that netted you a 500 calorie deficit, 500. If you did this consistently, at a 500 calorie deficit, it's going to take you 7 weeks to lose 1 pound. And a lot of people are doing this. It may not be in this exact way that I showed it. It may be some here, some here, some here. But as you can see, inconsistency equals really, really slow results, if any at all. And before, you could see if you were eating the right amount, creating a calorie deficit, exercising, and then being consistent, that came at 1 pound a week, and 52 weeks in the year, that's 52 pounds. It's not perfect science. You're going to have to do this and kind of figure it out over time and make small adjustments. And remember, as you lose weight, you're actually going to burn less calories naturally, unless you're actively putting on muscle mass. So that's the best way to keep this number nice and high is to stop dieting at some points, and I have videos on this as well. Stop dieting, bring your metabolism back up, build muscle, and then restart your calorie deficit. So I don't love super long-term calorie deficits. I like doing it for a period of time, take a break, bring your metabolism up, and then restart weight loss. But this as a whole, hopefully you can see how consistency matters. You get great results, and how inconsistency also matters because it steals from your ability to have any appreciable results, which will build momentum. That steals the momentum, and you end up giving up because you haven't lost a pound, but it was just your inconsistency. Plus things like alcohol that have like a double whammy effect. We won't get into that now, but hopefully this helps you see how to create a calorie deficit effectively, how to do it right, how to make sure that you're not under eating, because remember, that's your baseline. Almost, I'd say 90% of you are gonna be within that 1,100 to 1,400 calorie range. And that is fact, that is science. Like, don't think that you're just different. Know that that's your baseline number or right around that number. 2,000 calories for most people is gonna be really close to your number. It's gonna be 1,800 to 2,100 if you're really building a lot of muscle. So if you're dieting at 12, 1,400, that's gonna be a problem if you're exercising. So make sure if you're exercising that you're getting your calories up there, because remember, calories are nutrients. So the more calories you consume, the more nutrients, as long as that food is healthy. So try to exercise your deficit away rather than steal from your food. A little bit of both is good too. They don't have to be specific numbers like I'm doing as an example to make it easy. It could be, 300 from here, 200 from there. You can kind of figure that out, but just know that these numbers kind of equal up to the math that will equal fat loss, and understanding your individual bodies. And the last thing to go over real quick is for men. Just know that yours is likely, your resting metabolic rate is likely going to be between 18 and 2,200. So you're going to have to add, you're going to have more of a daily activity. So 800, and then thermogenic effect of food. We won't mess with that one, but you can see, let's go 22 plus 800, that's 3,200 calories. So you can see how yours is much different. We have a lot more muscle mass as men, so our daily activity using that muscle is going to be higher. But again, just use these tracking apps to find out what your numbers are going to be around, and I'm going to share lots of information about the best tracking apps and how to utilize them. But for now, just know that this is going to do the work for you. But same with men, don't necessarily use the amount of exercise calories that they tell you. Sometimes it's like 800, 900, 1,000 calories per hour. It's not fact. So men use 500 calories per hour unless you're doing absolutely insane high intensity exercise for long duration. So just input your 500 calories and don't use what they say because it's not accurate. So same thing applies for men as women. The numbers still 3,500 calories to lose 1 pound of fat. Your calories are just going to be, let's say, the 3,200, and then you create the same deficit. So it's the same thing. It's just finding your place to start. Hopefully this helps. Thanks for watching, and of course, if you have questions, let them rip.